Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is the Saturday's edition of the program Shagalinku TV, and we're glad to have all of you here. Thanks to those who always follow the program even after the end. They watch the videos and then also drop their comments. Sometimes they even inbox me to tell me how the program has touched their lives. This is Shagalinku TV, and it comes your way every Tuesdays and Saturdays, 2 p.m. West African time, and my name is Ambassador Emmanuel Gabari. Okay, we started out the end of the year series, and we've looked at a whole lot of things. I think this will be the third edition now of the end of the year series, where we're looking at a few things. We started off two editions ago, where Lady Funke Treasure was here to talk about how parents, women, and families need to cut their coat according to their cloth for this festive season. So they don't run out of money and then wake up in January and realize that they spent so much money that wasn't even necessary. And then on Tuesday, we were also here on the second edition of the end of the year series to talk about how we can use social media wisely. Because we also realize that during the end of the year season, there's so much movement, there's so much festivities, and maybe end of year parties, village meetings, weddings, and all that. And a lot of people might fall prey into social media pranks by people. There's hackers. There are people who will dupe people via the internet, snap pictures, and claim that XYZ lands are for them and ask people to bring money to buy things. And why we particularly did that edition on Tuesday as part of our end of the year series was that we know that a lot of people will be coming back home, either from abroad or even within Nigeria. There'll be a lot of movement. And so people might fall prey into the hands of 419ers who might just tell them, you know what, I have a piece of land, I have a plot of this, my father owns this. They snap beautiful pictures, and these people could become gullible and send money online and then they disappear. So that was why we particularly needed to talk on the angle of end of the year series when it comes to using social media wisely. Today, we'll be looking at another angle of our end of the year series. You all know that Christmas is around the corner, the New Year is around the corner, and like I always say on this show, not only Christians celebrate the festive period because one, it is a public holiday period. So it's a time where people who work from January to December just finds that, okay, you know what, this is the only time I can take a long vacation and just go see friends and family. So both Christians and Muslims and other faiths, people of other faiths, they also partake in this festive period or the holidays, so to say. And we know there will be a lot of whether vehicular movement or human movement and all that. And with what NCDC is saying right now, that there will be a second wave of the COVID-19, we just thought it wise to ask ourselves that what are the effects of cross movement during this festive period, especially the health implications, the financial implications, and also what governments can do to mitigate all this. Now we're looking at the government because yes, the whole lot citizens can do, but when government doesn't also put in place guidelines, policies, laws, and all that, and make sure there is monitoring and evaluation, and these laws are carried out to the letter, then it really would not work. So that's why we're bringing in an expert who's been in this health industry and also in the community to do. He's been doing a whole lot. His name is Mr. Paschal Achunine. He's a social entrepreneur, a financial consultant, and also the executive director of Health Emergency Initiative here in Nigeria, but based in Lagos. And he'll be talking to us about all this. Now, the comment section is open. If you want to drop a comment on what you think and how you think we as citizens can, move around this period and the effects of all that, please do drop it on the comment section. Lastly, let me also let you know that we're streaming in 3 destinations. So we're streaming from our YouTube page, it is Shagalinku TV. We're also streaming on our Facebook page, Shagalinku TV, and then on my personal page, Ambassador Emmanuel Gabari. You could drop your comments on any of them, and we'll be reading it here. Let me bring my guest right now, and if there's anything I forgot in the introduction, he will also tell us. Hello, Mr. Pascal.
Hi, Ambassador. I hope you're keeping safe.
Good.
Nice meeting
Yes,
you.
I am.
And listeners, I hope we are all keeping safe because we are still contending with the pandemic, and we need to um, remain resilient to allow it blow over. So compliments on the
True.
season to everybody. As Ambassador earlier introduced, I'm Paschal Achunine. I'm the Executive Director of Health Emergency Initiative. I have had experience and working exposure in the corporate space, especially the financial industry, for about 2.5 decades. And in the last 5 years, I got involved in the social space, especially identifying those touch points, critical areas that society is going through daily pains, and trying the little we can to bring succor to Nigerians. I am the founder and pioneer executive director of Health Emergency Initiative. What do we do in HEI? Among the other things, the key things we do includes providing support for crash victims, particularly road traffic accident victims. In our own part of the world in Nigeria, we usually hear of no bed space or deposit when they evacuate accident victims, especially by Federal Road Safety Commission and other agencies involved in that. But when they get to the hospitals, they meet those resistance, and eventually they have a lot of lives. And perhaps every listener could check in the course of this conversation, just type the biggest killer of young people, especially in the third world, especially in Nigeria particularly. It will show that there was a WHO report around this time to 2018 that cited road traffic accident as the biggest killer of young people. And we must not continue to live in pretense when such happens. So that's what our organization saw as a critical need, and we stepped into that space in the last 3, 4, 5 years. And we made it, we were intentional about it. We signed a MOU with FRSC and the agencies and some of the hospitals that have capacity to handle emergencies. But related to that also is that if you check your family and friends, the largest number of people die because over 50% or more of sick people or fatalities are associated with primary healthcare cases, malaria, typhoid, primary healthcare disease, meningitis, diarrhea, and all that. And so we got involved in the last 5 years in providing. Typically, you may think it's very small, especially when you look at it in dollar terms, but 20,000 naira we provide to support those the vulnerable. And Nigeria has a very infamous record of 105 million, or as is not commonly called, the poverty capital of the world. So we ensure that those little support we provide, and it turned out that even children 0 to 5 are the largest number of beneficiaries. So we have been supporting that space, and such that early this year, Lagos State government checked with the hospitals, and 98% of them nominated our organization as the best supporting NGO in Lagos State. Then okay, related to that also, we introduced first responders training. I'm sure some of us are familiar with scenes when emergency happens. You see people taking pictures and videos. Heart attack is on the increase, cardiac arrest. But here in Nigeria, we don't have a functional process of providing some temporary support for victims of accident, victims of cardiac arrest, or other emergencies until the paramedics arrive. So sometime about 15 months ago, we introduced a training, first responders training, that gives people capacity to handle CPR, first aid, and other support emergency victims require pending when they're taken to hospital. And on the final note, when COVID-19 came, which will be a key component of our conversation this afternoon, most not for profit, for instance, most sat on the fence, and you can't move out, you won't funds, grants were not coming again, especially because in locations where grants were coming, they were also having the pandemic. So people, some threw their hands into the air, but we said no, resilience is our in our core nature. So what we did was we identified that timely provision of PPE enhance capacity of most countries who were able to combat the menace. and did better. So we engaged raising emergency funds to put buy PPE and distribute it to hospitals, especially in Lagos State. And at the end, we got several. One of them was that we got also an award from Future Award Africa that our organization was among the top 24 organizations in Africa, including South Africa, Kenya, and Ghana, and other locations in Africa, that had a very credible response system that in beating COVID-19. So that's a little background about what we do. But again, it's important to, as we come home to the topic of today, what are the effects of implications of cross movement, the financial implications, the health implications, and what could the government do? Perhaps when Ambassador came up with this topic, maybe a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, or much earlier, it is possible that all of us, we are still feeling that, okay, this thing was pretty much blow over. We were able to record very little fatalities during the first wave, and even though as recent as 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, we are now having numbers like 100 or 50 something, 200, less than 200. But it's got very alarming for all of us now that around us and before us, we have a crisis. And tragically, there is no coordinated response system. We will hear some of the regulations, guidelines, protocols being marshaled out, but we are not certain that the political will, the enforcement mechanism is in place. And it's also very important to put it side by side. You heard about some musicians in Uganda and Nigerians who went to Uganda to perform. So Uganda is not a first world country, but in spite of their own imperfections and flaws as a nation, their system was able to still say, no, this is our laws. These are the regulations concerning COVID-19, and this we must enforce. So even though you are an actor, you're an icon, you're a celebrity, you must abide with our laws. In our own system, virtually everybody has dropped the ball. So we are now having numbers as high and scary as 1,000 plus. 3 days ago, the number of infected people went to an all-time high of 1,000 and some fraction. And do we have capacity to deal with this? More importantly, as our topic today says, cross movement. So this is also happening at a time many of our kids and kin in other parts of the globe, especially areas that are prone to high infection rates, will be coming for the Christmas celebration and other seasonal celebration. Are we certain that our gatekeepers, either from the regulators, those at the airports, those that are meant to track, are we certain, or can we even say that there's up to 20% enforcement in a credible manner that ensures what happened in February this year does not happen again? Because it took someone, an expatriate from Italy, who came into the country, and because we dropped the ball, that was how the infection came. Things that we would have put in place to mitigate it coming in at all, we did not adhere to them. So we now have this crisis now. I would encourage every listener to, first of all, approach this from the standpoint of enlightened self-interest. So we'll come to the core of our conversation this afternoon. The first is, what must I do to keep myself safe? There are chances that you might still do everything and get infected, but you feel more excited, you feel more fulfilled that, oh, even if there is a trace of COVID-19 infection, that you are you make sure you adhere to the protocols, all the regulations. And part of it is, will you join the bandwagon to travel this Christmas? People who lived, it's important to cast our mind back to the early 19th century, 20th century, between 1918 to 1922, when this pandemic, particularly in 1920, when this pandemic, similar pandemic, came upon humanity. Many had to set aside their normal way of living. So if there are people who go for party, those who travel to meet their parents, assuming if there were people who were highly outgoing in the social space, there were certain discipline, certain actions, and some discipline they exercised to make sure that they were not victims, they were not infected, and they did not die. And so those who lived beyond that period, let's say beyond 1922, they had many more Christmas and other years of celebration. So I want to appeal to everyone here listening to me. Let's also take that message across our loved ones and friends. That if, interestingly, there's a vaccine that is now meant to combat this. You may not get here earlier than the next 1 to 2 months. So if we are able to overcome this season and COVID-19 disappears in the future, we'll have several years to celebrate Christmas. So that's the first thing. You must take intentional steps to protect yourself, to stay alive. Life is a gift, though, and you're not leaving it for anybody. So I also want to, I'm taking this so that it will be personalized to everyone who listens to me this afternoon. That these are deliberate and intentional steps you must take to live. You're not living because you want to please anybody. It's a gift God gave all of us. So the highest level of compliance is that if you have capacity to get the things you need in your home front during this Christmas, get them now, especially for those who are in Nigeria that we have a very weak enforcement. So you need to take those deliberate steps. Then there are movements. So movement could be, let's also go a little further into our topic today. So cross movement, there is interstate movement, which is a movement within the national boundaries. There are also international movements, and I still see people who feel that the way I celebrated Christmas 3 years ago, you celebrated Christmas 3 years ago. Okay, I traveled to Dubai for Christmas, I traveled to the US for Christmas, I will do the same thing. And of course, there are many who are coming back from the US and other parts of the world to come back for Christmas. Is it very compelling that this must happen? So there are implications of that, because I read, I want to refer to Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. He said, as long as one person is still infected with COVID-19, humanity is not yet safe. So if you had planned to travel, I think in Nigeria during this period, the highest, the movement is especially towards the east, towards Eastern Nigeria. So it could be a time to rethink, say, okay, for the sake of my own life in the first place, let me rethink my trip. Let me stay with my family. For the sake of because not all of us have the privilege of being chauffeur driven or driving in our own cars. So we could use public transport. And the person sitting next to you may not have access to some of this conversation we're having this afternoon, and they will just feel it's normal. And again, it's also dangerous in this country where over 60% think that coronavirus is Oyobo's or big man's sickness. It does not affect the poor, and it is possible that as many people that have died who are not wealthy, their cases are not even being cited. So when we see Nigeria having a figure of 1,200 and something that died, it's probably most times speak about, okay, there was a commission of police Cross River that died of COVID-19 the other day, and chairman of Nigeria Football Association, Akwa Ibom, died the other day. Those are high-profile figures. Those cases may be cited, but they may have house helps, they may have cooks, they may have drivers who also got infected, but their names are not usually on the headline. So, talking about cross movement, are we going to still have people visit during this period? Even regardless of any caution we are going to advance on this platform, you still see people travel, but don't be among those who will travel this period. The other important fact that is related to the cross movement is that we live in a society where people live to survive by the day. In what it means is that 90 large, let me even put it in conservatively, over 50% of Nigerians contend with pandemics, different pandemics on a daily basis. Hunger pandemic is real. Unemployment pandemic is real. Homelessness, the pandemic of homelessness is real. I have been in the social sector. I see the dangers children of 0 to 5 face in Nigeria. Verifiable reports have it that over 20% of children born in Nigeria do not see their first 5 years. So that's a pandemic. And so many have gone to the stage and point where they've thrown their hands on the air, say, okay, if I die, I die. But it's also possible that a new nation may emerge in the next 2 years, in the next 5 years. So why will we now enlist to be among those who, if I die, I die? So you can still, if you have capacity to make a difference in your space, don't join the bandwagon. I want to urge us to avoid the cross-movement bandwagon this period. Maybe the next 6 months, maybe the next 9 months, we'll have some stability that can put us in a state to now go back to our relatives and friends, to maybe our old normal. But I don't know whether that old normal will ever come back again. We must begin to sit up to the fact that this may change humanity forever. So cross movement is starting us on the face in the next coming days. And some of the things that have been okay, so you are on this platform now. Most of us who are listening to or participating in this conversation, we can read and write. So there's also a great deal of illiteracy here. And many don't even have access to radio. Many do not have access to television. They do not read newspapers. Many do not have smartphones. So you can get a lot of information coming to your WhatsApp or the groups you belong to. You can get a lot coming to when you go to the social media handles. But many, perhaps over 30 to 40% or more, do not have access to smartphones. And so they do not even reckon with some of this. And I will deal with that bit when I saw on what the government should do. But I want us to be very, very intentional that this is not a time to operate this old way. And the health implication is that one thing about COVID-19, it's not like malaria. So if my friend or my relative, even if I'm a twin and my twin is we sleep in the same bed and he has malaria, it's not certain that I will also have malaria. If even HIV, the infectious rate, the level of HIV's level, the contamination associated with HIV is not the same with COVID-19. This one is that you've seen governors. Currently, the president of France is on quarantine, on self-isolation because he has COVID-19. The governor of Lagos State had COVID-19. The governor of Plateau State is also being treated for COVID-19. There are even reports, whether true or not, that the Chief Justice is away in Dubai being treated for COVID-19. 90% of these high-profile figures, and of course, we also saw that the one-time president of Ghana, one of their their veterans, as it were, he died of COVID-19. The implication is that these people, these personalities, they have taken all required precaution, because they are sitting on juicy offices. They have the wealth, they have all that are required to protect them from getting infected. But COVID-19 defies that. So it doesn't respect age, it doesn't respect class, it doesn't respect race. So a white man gets infected, a black man gets infected, an old person gets infected, and everybody gets infected. So it is a more because in other societies also, when they issue data that this is the number of people who died, these are the number of people who got infected, their process is transparent and genuine. In Nigeria, when I was on TVC on Wednesday, and one of the points I highlighted is that when these figures start getting to 3,000, when we see a spike hitting 5,000 per day, do we have capacity? So that's another question we'll ask ourselves. Looking at the health implication, because if we get to a stage where we have 5,000 infections per day, do we have ICUs that can accommodate that? Do we have enough medical personnel that can attend to that? Do we have enough drugs that would ensure quick attention given to infected persons? I'm sure all of us know it is. All the answers to this are no. They know it's a no situation. So are we going to not expose ourselves because I want to do Christmas enjoyment? And this thing is in the mind. So in the last few months, we saw that most of the isolation centers were pulled down by the government. Most of the testing centers where people can be tested freely have also withdrawn their ad hoc staff. Most of the figures you see from NCDC or from national public agencies that issue those publications, most of them are only a reflection of a fraction of what our number should be. Because I've had several feedback that most tests are conducted at private labs, and people somehow encourage as travelers, particularly those who are, most of the tests you see, there are always those who are either going out or coming back to the country. So they go to the private labs, they charge 50-something thousand, and there are some deals somehow. I mean, this is unofficial. There are persons who feel that it's better support. It enhances them financially somehow by encouraging people to go for tests in private labs. But good, it's a good thing that we have also developed more capacity among private lab operators, and there have also been incidents which the government at one time or the other, officials said that they would investigate, where people were issued fake COVID-19 results. But many are not aware that they can go to government testing centers, and most of the government testing centers have withdrawn their ad hoc personnel that were available to accelerate the capacity to handle tests. And then the treatment also. Do we have resources? Okay, most of us are aware that Nigeria is officially now, we have entered the worst economic recession in 40 years. 9 months ago, when this began, Nigeria had more resources. Nigeria had better financial muscle to handle this. Now we have entered a very horrible situation. I listened to one of the guests, one of the speakers on this platform, who spoke from UK recently, said that when they checked federal expenditure, 92% of them were on servicing debt. So between March and now, when COVID-19 started, we have our leverage ratio in terms of debt, the debt the country has acquired is huge. And of course, with these health situations, in addition to others people face on a daily basis, with very poor management of this COVID-19, with one of the worst, I will call it the worst plague that is troubling Nigeria today, is distrust. The public, the masses, do not trust the government. So even when government issues deadlines, issues regulations and guidelines, people see that the same government violates it when they're going for campaign, when they're going for electionary campaign and other political activities. And so people do not, and of course with the palliative saga, people do not trust the government. So it's dangerous to plunge into such a trap that I want to make a sweet Christmas and run into a situation where somebody might lose his or her life. Let me put this illustration forward. There was a lady staying in the US. She came back to Nigeria shortly before COVID-19, but she had a pre-existing medical condition. While in Nigeria, she got infected with COVID-19. In the process, she died. The mother went to her house, and sympathizers were coming, especially after the lockdown was partially lifted. In the process, the mother got infected with COVID-19. 10 days after she died, the brother, that's the son to the woman, the brother to the first lady that died, also in the process of taking care of the funeral programs of the relatives, got infected. He was in coma for several days. He nearly died. He said he doesn't know how he made it back to life. I'm using this as illustration so that we don't also shrug off the danger that confronts us today. It is important that we recognize how our system runs, the weak enforcement framework we have, and the fact that if what happened in Belgium, in Switzerland, where at the time their IC units were overwhelmed, they were overstretched, they didn't have capacity to take more. Should such a horror happen in Nigeria, that prediction that Africa will be littered with corpses, God forbid, that prediction may stand the danger of it playing out, God forbid. We recognize that our climate also has supported us. It's not as temperate as the Western region, Western world. But we also, Harmattan is coming, and so it can also worsen or create room for an increase in infection and perhaps fatalities. So this, I've pointed out the fact that there will be cross movements, interstate, intrastate, and international movements. However, we do not have structures that will support enforcement of regulation. So let's note that because we don't have structure or political will, it creates horrible danger for everybody. Two, the figures we see perhaps represent less than 30% or more or less of those who are genuinely infected. Many are asymptomatic and they go about without knowing that this is playing out. And the third one is that we are operating at a time when government spending power is weak. So we do not see the government pooling resources as much as most other societies have done. And the fourth is, could there be a lockdown because of this second wave? I do not think so. I will dwell on what the government should do now before we start. I know questions will come. I don't know whether Ambassador, do you have any comment yet before I continue?
Yes, there are a few. I'll just take some of them before we go on to what government can do. This one is from Solomon Ebere. He says, I want to really know the level of how safe we can be in the festive period, because there have been threats that there'll be lockdown in the country again. And I also know there is a vaccine for it coming up soon. So my question is, are Are we suffering from the pandemic or insecurity? That's from Solomon. Um, I'll take one more and then we'll talk. Um, this is from Amebayo. It says cross movement of people from one place to another during celebration means a lot to them because they do travel to see their loved ones that they have been missed over the years. But there is a financial implication attached to it because of extravagant spending. So they end up regretting after the celebration. My question now to the guests in the house is how can government curtail the spread? Because it is the responsibility of the government to provide for its citizens health wise. Thank you. So you can do response to these two, Solomon Ibere and Ame Bayo, and then we'll go on. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so the first question. Uh, so going to the first question about sorry, please, can you after his can you the last
Yes,
part
he
of
said.
the last part?
Yes, he said. So my question is, are we suffering from the pandemic or from insecurity? This
Okay.
one is from Solomon, the first one. And then the second person says, Amebayo says, his question is, how can government curtail this? Because it's the responsibility of the government to provide for its citizens health wise. This is from Ame.
So a while I was speaking earlier, I had pointed out that we have multiple pandemic that has bedeviled Nigeria. We do not, we have not got. Let me put, insecurity is probably a worse pandemic than COVID-19. And of course, when you look at it by way of figures, you will see that how many people have died because of COVID-19 officially less than 1,300. How many people have died between March and December from insecurity? We'll probably be talking about tens of thousands. So if you also check the stats with malaria, with pneumonia, with cardiac arrests and heart attack, you will see that those ones also be in tens of thousands. So people will be thinking that this doesn't kill. Perhaps let me keep doing my normal thing. But I come, Solomon, my suggestion is it will be very, very expedient that whatever, we are not going to place reliance on what the government is doing to what the government might do in handling the things that are within our capacity to do. So there are things within your capacity to do as a citizen. You don't need the government to force you to do it. The government doesn't force you to eat. The government doesn't need to force you to stay alive. You have a choice to stay alive. And there are those who are dying of several other things, and they have the good health as you do, and they will say, okay, what, you mean that I need to just stay, observe certain certain rules or regulations for 90 days and stay alive? I will do that now. So I urge us, one, even the insecurity makes it compelling that until perhaps government wakes up or fixes that, it is a disincentive to travel. Because at a time when you are on the highway, you're not sure whether you'll be the victim that somebody will come out of the bush and start shooting at will. And you're not sure whether you'll be kidnapped. You're not sure whether you'll be kidnapped in your home or on the highway. So it is the two areas of the two pandemic, if you call it, the pandemic of COVID-19, the pandemic of the insecurity, makes it compelling that we should stay wherever we are and celebrate Christmas, so far as where we are is safe. And relating it to the financial implication, many of us do not know that between now and the next 6 months, the hardship in Nigeria will multiply if government does not do something genuinely towards transforming the economy. And that requires the government, because I'm yet to see between March, when COVID-19 became public here, and now, I'm yet to see any political office holder saying, okay, I have 500 special advisors and personal advisors. I'm reducing it by 50% so that we can save costs and plow it into developing the country. I earn the ones that are approved and not approved, or the ones that are genuine, or the ones that are obvious or not. I earn, as a public office holder, 30 million, and I'm reducing it by 50%. We have hardly seen any. It's only, okay, Nigerians, you make sacrifice, you tighten your belt. Political office holders are still living their lifestyle as if there's no recession. And it will have implication, because we see that in some of the states and even at the MDAs, many can't pay salary. They struggle to pay salary. So if people do not have funds to spend, the economy, the recession will get worse and worse. So that extra money you could spend, one, if the financial implication of this cross movement, it means that if you take a bus from here to Abuja, the Lagos to Abuja, for instance, Lagos to Owerri, for instance, it means that before the Christmas season, you probably pay 7,000 or 8,000 naira. Now you pay 15, sometimes 25,000. So why incur all that cost? Why waste all that money? If you also go, of course, the same way you will spend, because you still want to show that you're not the worst hit. So you will spend the things that you've not yet earned. The statistics for the banking industry recently showed that over close to 40,000 people lost their job between March and now, in both ASO staff and core staff. Those ones are coming to the economy with lean pockets. If they have been participating in some positive ways in the economy, they will be disadvantaged, and the economy will take more hits for it. And many more businesses have closed down between then and now. So while the financial implication, especially with inflation, we see that businesses are benchmarking their products in line with the exchange rate in Nigeria. By this time last year, exchange rate was 360 something. Now is in the black market is plus or minus 500. So the things that and of course with the negative effect of border closure, that also made the prices of things to go higher. So we must at times begin to come to this moment of truth. So this is a moment of truth that we should not, because there is a bandwagon. I have loved ones, and I'm gradually going into the question of the second question, that people travel during the Christmas because they want to see their loved ones. They want to be with them. But I have an aged parent, and it could be very exciting to spend a lot of time with her this period. But I recognize that I need to also look at my finances. Can it support a trip this time? I need to look at the safety. Perhaps as I'm traveling, I meet an asymptomatic person, and somehow I get involved, I get infected. So if I now, unknowing to me, I go home, and my mother, who is a vulnerable person, because she's more vulnerable than I am, because she's older than I am. So my visit to stay with her now exposes her to danger. I don't think I've done her any good. And part of that trip, I can take that trip in 6 months. I can take my leave and take that trip in 6 months. So it's important that we would need to look at the economy, the logic of embarking on such a trip at this time. So we see that the financial implications are high, the health implications are high, and the cross movement. There was also a part of the question about how does the government regulate movement. maybe that's on the strength of that, I can quickly go to what the government should do. We saw that COVID, sorry, that's COVID is an acronym for the organization that with private sector group that came together to put resources together to ensure that they support government in fighting COVID-19. They have done a whole lot. They've mobilized a lot of money, led by the CBN and other banks and the Dangote Foundation and others, in billions, in fact, hundreds of billions, because the last time I checked, I saw that they were planning to commit 100 billion to the Nigerian police. If you also check what happened with the palliatives, in other societies, as we speak today, Germany is on lockdown. Most parts of Europe are on lockdown. And those who actually ignored even in some, there's one governor in the US who said, if only I knew what I knew now, when I was going to the White House without wearing a mask, I would have worn a mask, because he stayed 1 week or so in ICU. And one thing again, some of us do not know is that when you suffer from COVID-19, it has the sad part of it is that you may get well, but you may not get every part of your body back again. It's not like when you treat malaria, when you treat it in 3 days or 4, it goes and you move on with your life. COVID-19 is not like that. So I go back, societies, other countries, organized societies, especially outside Africa, they provided some welfare packages for their people. Private sector system here probably put those resources in the hands, they surely put it in the hands of the government, and that is how it should be. But with the warehouses, with experience after NSAS and all that showed that some warehouses were looted, and it brought out the reality or the picture that, yes, their intention was good. Maybe some governments also did well in their own space, but it's possible that the red tape, the bureaucratic process of running government in Nigeria does not give room for the required efficiency for whatever you want to do to get to trickle down. So I want to propose, first and foremost, PPSP, private, typically we call it public-private partnership. But this one, we introduced S before the last P, which is public-private social sector partnership. The essence is that if Kakovi gives Nigerian government 1 trillion naira, whether state, federal, or local, 80% of the citizens or more will think that will never impact society positively, that it would somehow miss its way. And now about 600 billion was spent in the course of COVID-19, various interventions and support. But most of the people, when you check with them, they say, no, nothing got to, especially in certain parts of the country. So our recommendation, my recommendation is that Kakovi should identify credible social sector partners. For COVID-19, let me use this as illustration. On the 17th of September this year, we got a call from MultiChoice. They sent a mail to us, to our organization, Health Emergency Initiative. They said they had checked they got a external consultant who checked with the hospitals and health institutions in Lagos on PPE distribution, because they imported some as part of their CSR. And they saw that our organization, HEI, was most credible in the way we handled PPE distribution. So their MD wrote to us. And by the time we exchanged correspondences, 5 days later, they came with 4 vehicles, including 2 coaster buses, that brought PPE worth 40 million naira for us to distribute on their behalf, because they were certain that the items will get to genuine users, those health workers and others who would need it, and we can also integrate our M&E processes to make sure that feedback and on utilization and impact will be shared with stakeholders. This is the little way. These are some of the recalibration, some recommended recalibration that COVID need to introduce in their further engagement with government. And government must not think it will do it alone. So when I talk about COVID, it's important that we bring the health sector to the front burner. Many private sector organizations before now, they will prefer to do a few things on advocacy, a few things that relates to music. I'm not saying that music, as they say, is the soul of the is the food of the soul, but most of the private sector entities do not want to roll their sleeves or identify credible entities that will ensure that programs that will impact the vulnerable, programs that will impact the larger sector in the society are incorporated in the CSR. So COVID is being challenged to tweak its methodology. It needs to recalibrate. It needs to identify, oh, this is a credible entity, this is a credible entity. And also to reinforce what I said earlier, Future Awards Africa nominated, chose our organization among the 24 in Africa that handled COVID-19 engagement or intervention most credibly. So there are, besides Health Emergency Initiative, there are other credible partners that would build a coalition between public, private, and social sector. This is the panacea to dealing with this. I also want to emphasize that whatever program any donor is giving, or even the government, it must intentionally introduce, monitor, and evaluation. It helps you to track performance, it helps you to track impact, so that it will not just be, okay, we spent 600 billion, but there is clearly little or no evidence to show that the purpose was achieved. So a man must ab initio be incorporated into the framework of any social intervention. Then enforcement. I cited the example of the people in Uganda. It's not a first world country, but they were audacious and clear that this is what the government say. So we do not care about enforcement here. Is a few cases, maybe you see pockets of cases that shows that, oh, some are enforcing, others are laid back. But very related to enforcement, because there's a social a trust deficit. There's the issue of trust between the people and the government. There should be greater level of consultation. So part of this engagement and consultation is the National Union, NURTW, National Union of Road Transport Workers, truck drivers, CDAs, market associations. Government must intentionally engage them. Part of it is that if you say a bus should carry 50% of its fleet capacity, and the man knows that he's buying fuel, PMS, premium motor spirit, as it's called technically, as so amount, and if he carries, instead of, if the bus is a 14-seater bus and is carrying 8 persons, he knows that even though he does several trips, he will not be able to meet his costs. It's a difficult one to enforce. That government must engage, sit down with the union leaders, have a town hall session, remind everybody that this motor park, this route, these buses, let's say, there are fleet operators like God is Good Motors, for instance, Peace Mass Transit, Chisco, and others. If you bring it to their consciousness that your entire fleet can be shut down in the event that someone who passed through your space, it got infected, that we can shut you down. So it's called disease risk communication. So this is the risk you stand to you face in the event that you contract this disease or you get infected. That's one. Are there other incentives government can also provide? So, okay, for the purpose of having 50% carrying capacity, these are incentives we can provide for you. It may be that in the area of identifying some concessionary way of utilizing energy. It may be energy. It may be there might be something that government offers that gives them incentive for compliance. And again, it is also because this thing happened in France. The central government gave a regulation to the south coastal areas, and some of the governor or the regional leader he rose in opposition and pointed out that such can create rebellion and revolt. What it means is that as a government, how did we do the first time? Was it effective? Do we introduce schemes like what we did to bring polio to an end? Can we deploy health sanitary inspectors who could be at each of those bus stations, market locations, churches? So there will be a lot more. Government must be bold, because the worst is if the COVID-19 showed us that health is wealth. When COVID-19 came, businesses of all kinds shut down. So government must recognize that if this thing gets out of hand, everything would be at a standstill. In fact, it will be in negative. So it's very, very expedient that we confront the issue in a very non-threatening way, by making the people know that you care about them. And talking about care, I think that's a very important point I also want to mention. The body language people get from those in authority is that they have a different country, we are in a different country. We must find ways of aligning our humanity. So our pronouncements, our actions and inactions must suggest that we care a little. And again, in the past, 90% of those who are in public office could easily travel abroad, have access to high profile medication. Now, COVID-19 does not even give room for one to do that. So, and it can take someone's life in less than 2 weeks. So I want to pause here if there are more questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Pascal. In case you just joined, we're wrapping up the program soon, and we've been talking with Mr. Pascal Achunine, and we're looking at what are the effects of cross movement during the festive period. We're looking also at the health implications, the finance, and what government could do. He'll be wrapping up soon with his final words. I think, Mr. Pascal, we might do a part 2 of this. I don't know, maybe on Tuesday, if you'll be free on Tuesday's edition, because there's so much we need to talk about. I need to also ask you a few things about more details of what your organization is doing and how they can reach you and all that. But let's just see, because we have less than 3 minutes to wrap up the show. But let me take a few messages. Let me take the ones here on the screen, and then we'll take the ones on my phone. This one is from Ahmed Bayo again. It says, my ambassador, appreciate your good work. May that kata leave you in the next show. Thanks. I'm watching you guys live. Thank you. Again, he said, please greet Mr. Pascal for me. He's here and he's listening. So they are greeting you, Mr. Pascal. Okay, so Mr. Pascal, let me take a few more messages here, and then I will ask you to wrap up. Okay, this one is from Awal Ibrahim. It says, that's great. People are to comply with precautionary measures against COVID-19, especially during the Christmas and other public gathering places. That's from Awal Ibrahim. And then I got this one from Daniel Akoji Mills. It says, cross movement is very common during festive period. People travel for 1 or 2 reasons, but forget the implications afterwards. Personally, with the situation on ground and how we are being threatened with the menace of COVID, I don't see the need of risking it to travel. I see a lot of dangers traveling, most especially by land. and wouldn't advise anyone to risk it to travel, but can wait after the celebration before he or she can go. Let me take one last one as you respond. This is from Mr. Sunday Atta, and it says, for me, it's a family tradition that I travel home for Christmas, and this year won't be different. Just that we have to be more careful this year. Apart from the insecurity wahala, there is COVID wahala, there is the bad road wahala, and there is also the no money wahala. Nigeria problem plenty, but as some Nigerians will say, problem no dey finish. We just have to be careful and allow all the NCDC procedures. This is from Sunday Atta. What do you
Yes,
have to say, Mr. Pascal?
latching on that NCDC procedure. So what the takeaway from this is you must be intentional to stay alive. If you have not been wearing your nose mask, make sure you have enough and that you are diligent about wearing it. If you must go outside, you must have your hand sanitizers also. You must also maintain social distance if for any reason you're going outside. If you have to go and hang out somewhere to enjoy yourself, please take that enjoyment to your house. It will be very expedient to do that. And I also want to remind us that we should also look out for those who may not have some of the advantages we have. The neighbor who is living some houses away or within the same very close to your household may not have capacity to get nose masks, and that neighbor might directly or indirectly be the carrier through whom this may happen. So please care for neighbors. We may also do some things beyond what the government could do if you have not thought about it. Maybe you can adopt 5, 10 families who would have been exposed to harm's way because they cannot afford 10 cups of rice this period. So why not support them? Show some charity, show some kindness. Again, one of the things that happens when as we wrap up is that because of COVID-19, the horror of COVID-19, many have difficulty accessing hospital facility. So we can also support the health workers by getting PPE available for some of them. So many of them are still in their need of it because besides COVID-19, people have other needs to go to the hospital, and some of them are life-threatening. So you can mobilize some people. If you do not know a credible channel to send those PPE, contact Health Emergency Initiative. We will help you to make sure it gets to those who need it so that more people can be treated or have access to basic health care and stay alive. And most importantly, we look forward that government will demonstrate more sincerity, more transparency in the engagement this time. They should revamp and strengthen the testing centers, the isolation centers, and identify other measures to make sure, including deploying health sanitary inspectors who would ensure that some of the guidelines are being enforced. And I speak to those who are doing businesses, those who are in the motor parks, those who are in the various markets. You have seen incidents of Lagos State government closing some markets, closing some worship centers. We are not prescribing that or recommending that, but the leaders should also engage and consult their people more so that all the protocols are complied with, and incidents, these numbers, we can see them going down, and eventually COVID-19 would disappear from here. And the final shot, on the final note, I didn't address the issue of vaccine pretty well. Somebody asked question about the vaccine. It's not likely the vaccine will get here earlier than the end of January. And when it comes, with the process we see in this country, before it becomes accessible to the masses, it may take 3 more months. But vaccine is essentially for prevention. If somebody is in ICU, vaccine will not save at that point. So there may be over 60% chance of dying when you're in ICU. So I urge us, while we also look forward that when the vaccine comes, we would also work as a coalition to make sure that it gets to those who need it. Let's protect ourselves until such a time. And I pray that this Christmas will not be our last Christmas. We'll see much more, because I want to leave us with this parting word. I want us to see, everyone listening to me, I want everyone to see the next 10 Christmas, the next 20 Christmas, the next 50 Christmas as Jesus tarries. So those are my words and parting words. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pascal, for that very wonderful one. It's been really amazing and awesome having you. And to our viewers, thank you for being there. For everyone who sent in messages, so many messages here for us to read, but then time will not let us do all that. But I will talk with Mr. Pascal after this program, and let's see if he will be here for us again on Tuesday, on our Tuesday's edition, because we're still continuing the end of the year series. We'll be doing it until the 31st of December, and if possible, first week of January as well. So we'll just gather all. So I'll talk back with Mr. Pascal and see if we can have him again on Tuesday, so we could wrap up some of the things we forgot or we couldn't touch as a result of the time. You can imagine 1 hour and we still can't exhaust everything. That's to tell you how loaded Mr. Pascal is. Thank you so much, Mr. Pascal Achunine, for being there for us. And to everyone who joined here, to all our viewers who also join across the globe. I know some of them will be watching this when their time zone comes on. Some of our viewers from London, from US, from Philippines, and everyone, they'll start commenting and joining us maybe 6 hours time because of the time difference and all of that. Thank you all for joining. And yes, from Tuesday, we'll be doing the viewers corner. So all you need to do is just send us a short video of 30 seconds. All you do is say your name, the state or country you are in, and then send your greetings, because from next week it will be the Christmas week itself. So from Tuesday, our Tuesday's edition, our Saturday's edition, and up until the end of the year, we'll be using it to do a viewers corner. So send in your 30 seconds video to greet your friends and loved ones. I don't know why the WhatsApp line is not showing today on the screen, but it is +234 54383460. It's still on our Facebook page. So you WhatsApp it to us, or you send it as an inbox message. We compile all and we'll be sharing it alongside our program from Tuesday and Saturday, and even all through. We'll be putting it on our Facebook pages, so that it will be there for everyone to greet. That's the time for you to greet your friends and loved ones. Just a short video of not more than 30 seconds, and we'll just play it like that till the end of the year, and then first week of the year, as well as we do Happy New Year and all that. Okay, that's the much we can do today. Let's do it again on Tuesday, 2 p.m., God willing. And I hope you all have a beautiful Saturday celebration. The videos will be here on YouTube, on Facebook, and don't forget to also click on our subscribe button on the YouTube page, so that on the notification button as well, so that when we come on air, you'll be notified, and then you go on. Remember to also like our Twitter handle, our Instagram handle, all the social media platform. Just search for Shagalinku TV and it will bring you up here. Like I said, the video will be here. The conversations are ongoing and unending. Just drop your comments and we might just compile all and send to our guest. And then on Tuesday, if he will be free to join us at 2 p.m., he will respond to all the remaining questions and we'll take a fresh angle on the end of the year series. My name is Ambassador Emmanuel Gabari. Thank you all for joining us, and God bless you all. Have a beautiful Saturday. Bye bye.